Hello and welcome to my channel. Let's see the my 6 multi-class build recommendations for Baldur's Gate 3. First of all, I would like to remind you that in Baldur's Gate 3 the developers have decided to allow the transformation of the Druid of the Circle of the Moon into an owl bear, basically a fantasy monster that has the tonnage of a bear with an owl face, made famous by the excellent Dungeons & Dragons movie recently released also on DVD. For this reason, the first build that I propose is the Druid of the Circle of the Moon multiclassed with the Bear Totem Barbarian class. If you want to follow this build, I advise you to start immediately with the first Druid level and then select the Circle of the Moon at level 3. You must reach level 6 in order to transform into an owlbear. This is a change to the Dungeons & Dragons rules made possible by the choices of the developers. The next step is to take levels in the Barbarian class in order to gain the Rage class feature. During the Rage you will have a bonus to melee damage but also resistance to damage, which in practice will have the number of wounds you suffer. The second build is my favorite, the multi-classed Warlock or Sorcerer Paladin. I like to start with the Paladin so that Divine Smite is immediately unlocked at level 2. This class feature allows you to add 2d8 melee damage by expending a spell slot. At this point you can choose whether to take Warlock levels to gain the Pact of the Blade, which allows you to use Charisma instead of Strength, or Dexterity for damage with melee weapons. By doing this you can have a character who is proficient with all weapons and all armor and shields and is able to cast spells. For this reason you should start the game with Charisma as the highest main characteristic, which is still very important during dialogues and for interaction skills such as Persuasion, Deception, Intimidate. The alternative for an excellent build is the Sorcerer if you want to further increase the number of spell slots, which is quite limited for a Warlock and a Paladin. Sorcerer is very similar to Wizard in terms of spell list type but runs on Charisma instead of Intelligence, so it's perfect for this build. The developers have stressed that multiclassing will be less punishing than the official Dungeons & Dragons rules regarding access to higher level spells. For this reason I believe that as soon as the full game is available including all options class, a Sorcerer Warlock Paladin could be very interesting. If you want to focus on spells you will put more Sorcerer levels, while if you want magical abilities at will, invocations, increase the Warlock levels. Probably one of the new invocations obtainable at higher levels will be the improved Pact of the Blade. Another invocation that can come in handy is Devil's Sight, which allows you to see in magical darkness. I remember that a drow possesses the racial trait that allows him to summon a globe of darkness. In doing so you could strike the enemy from a distance while remaining concealed, or summon the globe around the enemy and attack him with advantage with melee weapons while he is unable to see even if he has dark vision. A third good build that focuses on spells is the Sorcerer Warlock. Take 2 Warlock levels and the rest as a Sorcerer so as to be able to enhance the Occult Blast, very powerful Warlock trick, through the use of sorcery points. The fourth build that I propose is that of the Wizard Fighter. Remember that the Fighter is the only class that at high levels can make more than 2 extra attacks in the same turn. Normally the other classes skilled in combat such as the Barbarian, the Ranger, and the Paladin get at most 1 second extra attack starting from level 5, and they won't get more in the next levels. The Warrior, on the other hand, can get 4 extra attacks. So if you want to have the maximum number of melee attacks each turn, go for the Fighter and don't multiclass until level 11. Reached level 5 you will have 2 attacks. Reached level 11 you would have a 3rd attack, so eventually you could choose to take a 2nd class at level 12, which is the maximum in Baldur's Gate 3. In this case you will have to be very patient and wait a long time before multiclassing. Action Swurge is already obtained at the 2nd fighter level and allows you to immediately obtain a 2nd action which you can use for another melee weapon attack, or, for example, to cast the Fireball spell a 2nd time in the same turn. At the start of a fight it can be devastating to the target group of enemies. In D&D, with the Warcaster feat you have advantage on Constitution saving throws that you make to maintain your concentration on a spell when you take damage. You can perform the somatic components of spells even when you have weapons or a shield in one or both hands. When a hostile creature's movement provokes an opportunity attack from you, you can use your reaction to cast a spell at the creature, rather than making an opportunity attack. The spell must have a casting time of 1 action and must target only that creature. I add that the fighter can normally select the subclass that allows him to cast arcane spells, but normally the typology is limited compared to the wizard. It remains to be seen if the developers have decided to enhance this subclass of the fighter as well, making it possible to have the power similar to that of a wizard without necessarily multiclassing. The same goes for the monk and thief class. Both of these classes can choose a subclass from level 3 that allows them to cast some wizard spells, without multiclassing. As well as the fighter having a lot of extra attacks, the rogue has a lot of extra sneak attack damage. The sneak attack damage increases by 1d6 for every 2 levels after the first. At level 5 you have a sneak attack of 3d6. Once this milestone is reached, it might be a good time to multiclass. During the game you will certainly find magic items that will increase to 19 intelligence, charisma or wisdom, the main characteristics for using magic, so don't worry too much about how you distributed the scores at character creation. Dexterity for both small arms attacks and hiding is important to a thief. So from level 6 you may choose to continue with sorcerer, bard or warlock if you have a good charisma score, with the cleric or druid if you have a good wisdom score, or with the wizard if you have a good intelligence score. Sixth build, very simple and fast if you don't want to think about it much and want to focus on arcane and divine spells at the same time. We said that in Baldur's Gate 3 multiclassing is less punishing for spellcasters, so why not make a wizard cleric or a sorcerer druid and have access to the most powerful spells in the game? Take 6 levels in both classes and you're good to go. At 6th level, a class gains the second feature granted by its subclass. These are just some of the possible combinations, but they are the ones I personally find most interesting. Do you know of others that work well? Write them in the comments on this video. See you soon, and if you liked the video, share it with your friends who are passionate about Baldur's Gate 3 and Dungeons and Dragons.